We should have MB here.
Is she the tech guru?
She does this every day. Do I need to move two slides for you?
I should be able to do that. I feel like I'm going to miss questions if I am constantly looking at the screen. Good morning, everybody. I sent out some emails to you all either last night or this morning, depending on when you registered. I do have copies of that one main reference sheet. So if anybody wants to have that to take a look at or to write notes on, you can grab one. This guy right here.
Somehow I got roped into being the assistant.
You knew this would happen.
It's all right.
And so for the most part, what's on these specific sheets, which everybody on Zoom also got the same email, the reference sheet, it's going to have a breakdown of sort of the scoring and type of things that we're looking at in terms of how we turn the particular nutrition practices that we're going to discuss today into a challenge. You guys are welcome to join us in that challenge. You are not required to join us in that challenge. But there will be some fun accountability stuff for that and some prizes at the end of it. So mostly what we're going to talk about today is kind of our current diet landscape, diets and why they tend to fail. And by failure, I mean sort of don't last long term. A little bit about some practical and sustainable practices that we kind of started to believe in here as a culture, and a lot of ways to implement those. And we'll take all sorts of questions at the end. I'll give you lots of time to talk and discuss. And then if anybody does want to sign up for the challenge, there will be a follow-up email with a registration link for that. So, yeah. I'm going to start off with a little quote because that's what we do with these, right? So thinking about a diet as a temporary change is the best way to achieve temporary results. And so how I kind of stated earlier that a lot of diets are considered failures because their results don't last long term, typically has something to do with the fact that when you look at a diet, you're like, oh man, I got to get through this. I got these 4 terrible weeks ahead of me. I don't get to eat anything that I love. And so you're very much looking at it not as a lifestyle change and an approach to your overall nutrition, but as a short period of time where you have to restrict the things that you love. And as such, over the long haul, we tend to fall back into our normal routines, our regular eating patterns, our desire to jump back into our favorite snacks. It's like we binge ahead of time to prep for that restrictive period. Then we kind of take off all of that weight that we put on right before we started our diet. And then at the end of the diet, you feel like you've made it, you deserve to treat yourself. So you go back to that mentality and sort of, we just yo-yo up and down. I'm sure that everyone in here can probably relate. I know that I can.
I can move it for you if you want.
Thank you. I might start calling on you. My click friend, thank you. All right, so there is one thing that most diets tend to address. So we kind of went over why they fail, but you'll have zealots in any diet category. If you've done intermittent fasting, if you've done paleo, if it fits your macros, keto, name a diet, somebody loves it because it's worked for them. So typically what all diets do is they address some core factors that you maybe don't see necessarily because the diets are doing this in a different approach. Some of them are restricting certain types of foods. Some of them are lowering calories. Some of them are removing sugars. But at the end of the day, what they're all doing essentially is addressing the quantity they're eating and in some fashion, typically improving the quality, although we all know that there's ways to cheat any diet. You can sort of find a way to fit in junk on most diets, at least most of the ones that I've written up here. So with that being said, if we have this tendency to see that we kind of do two things: address diet quality, address diet quantity, or overall intake, then that's a major, I should have called on you, a major point that we want to use in determining a sustainable diet framework. I wanted to draw this a little bit into the CrossFit space because most of us here, maybe not most of us actually, a good portion of us here are CrossFitters. We do CrossFit, and this is one of our main modules and frameworks that you learn when you start to learn about CrossFit. It's called the Sickness, Wellness, Fitness Continuum, a very crafty name. And what this basically is trying to explain is just, we have sickness, which sadly, more of our population than not is living in some form on this sicker end of the continuum. Then we have wellness, and then we have fitness. Fitness being determined as continually enacting the practices that would keep you at healthy blood markers. So your cholesterol is down, you know, your A1C is down, your blood sugar is good, you're not insulin resistant, all of those things that come up on regular blood panels. And so we continue to do this. And the more you do this, the better you develop a buffer here on this side of the, sorry, you guys can't see my hands, a buffer on the fitness to wellness side. So even if you kind of fall off after sustainably enacting these practices for a long time, you've still got wellness. You're still doing pretty well if you can find something that allows you to stay sustainable in your practices. And I know all of you guys are working out, right? You're all working out at least 3 times a week, doing your respective movement practice. So that's one right there. The food tends to be the one that we let fall off. So we want to try to find something that keeps us more to this side, that is sustainable long-term, and that gives us, thank you, that buffer before we start getting on the sickness end of things, before we're, you know, pre-diabetic, before we're needing to see our primary care physicians constantly for this and that, and the aches and the pains and the inflammation. Can you click for me? Thank you, Helper. So one of the biggest problems, as I said, with the food being the thing that sort of pushes us towards that sickness end, is refined carbohydrates. And so we'll say this a million different ways. What we're really looking at is added sugars, processed foods, the things that don't really have an expiration date, things that survive on shelves for a long period of time, because they're stripped down of their nutrients, they're stripped down of their water content, and typically they're pumped full of things that make them taste better. So I use this example for you just to kind of point out that that morning scone or that morning muffin and an entire plate of food come out to be, in terms of quantity, pretty similar calorically. I've got a 420 calorie morning, and I'm going to be hungry again in about 30 minutes to maybe 90 minutes, right? We've all had that scone in the morning. Whereas you've got 500 calories, you sit down, take a little more time, do your food prep, and you're not hungry until lunchtime. That's what we want to go for. We want nutrient-dense filling foods that can take us through our day, that can fuel our activity, our brain functions, all of it, so that we're not reaching for the energy drink at 11 a.m. Can you also please admit Desiree? Thank you.
I
So
know what I'm doing.
you're doing a great job. To expand on that a little bit more, we have two, we'll say 2,000 calories because it's easier, two 2,000 calorie days here. All right, one of them happens before noon, right? That's very easy to do. You get your quick latte, you're going on the way to work. By lunch, you're ordering a sub from the sandwich shop down the street, and you've already hit your caloric need for the day in a meal and a half. Whereas with a little extra time, putting in the right sorts of nutrient-dense foods here, we've got real proteins, we've got actual vitamin-rich vegetables and fruits here, and you've got a full day. There are some protein supplements in there. If anybody noticed, we can talk about those later too. A full day of satiety. Those are meals that are filling you up, right? It looks like it might take a little bit of effort to eat that much food. Maybe it's not Janae. Janae could eat that in the morning. So Next, please. Thank you. What we want to do is kind of talk about, we're gonna give Optimize Me Nutrition and E.C. Sinkowski a lot of credit because these are her principles of nutrition. And I'll link out to these. They'll be in all of your paperwork that comes out in email as a follow-up to this seminar. So we're gonna pretty much stay focused mostly on the 1 and 2 here, but we don't have to read through all of them. You all have a copy in the email that I sent before with these also, but we've got quantity and calories determines weight. That's the simple mathematics of it. Yes, it gets much more nuanced than that, so we don't need to get sciencey here, but you know, calories in determines your weight. If you're not burning the calories that you put in and you're overdoing it, goes up. If you're overburning, goes down. All right, in simple terms, it can be broken down like that. Quality determines body composition. So that means you can hit the scone morning, but you're probably gonna feel lazy, bloated, and puffy by the end of the day. You can have the expanded full breakfast that includes protein, that includes vegetables, that includes fruits, and other dense nutrient foods. And you're gonna feel pumped. You're gonna be ready to go. You're gonna have more energy by 2 in the afternoon than you typically would. So those 2 things are the main ones that we're gonna focus on as we move into our challenge information, which I know all my guys are waiting on. So another one, just for a talking point that I do want to bring up, is number 5 here. Number 5 is it's never one thing. That means in an expanded form that there's no one superfood, there's no one micronutrient, there's no one add-in or takeaway from your diet that is going to be the end-all be-all to repair damage, to make you feel better, to make you instantly lose weight. It is a compilation of very nuanced things. So the more that we can diversify, you know, our diet landscape, the better we're going to be overall in terms of supporting our body's daily functions. The energy that you need every day is for everything on a cellular level up. So not just your simple, oh man, I'm kind of tired for this workout, I better shoot an energy drink, but your ability to think, your ability to repair cells, all of that is due to 40 essential vitamins and then thousands of non-essential phytochemicals and other chemicals that come from food. Thank you. So I want to talk a little bit about a way that we kind of have constructed to get some better numbers here, get a lot of those phytochemicals, those nutrient-dense foods in, and make it specifically appropriate for, you know, measuring a challenge. So we have an 800-gram plate here. E.C. Sinkowski's overall challenge for the for eating all of the sort of nutrient-dense foods is called the 800-gram challenge. So you'll see that written in quite a few places going forward here. And it is exactly as it sounds, 800 grams of food by weight. This is kind of how a plate would look like set up for a day. That looks like a good amount of food there. We have all sorts of breakdowns here. If you're someone who hates measuring, which I kind of do, I don't love measuring, but I've gotten into the habit of it. You have 6 cups approximately, right? If you hate getting out a measuring cup, you can use the size of your fist to determine a cup. When I say a fist, I mean by volume. So just because it's this size on a plate, if it's flat, go ahead and stack it up a little bit. Get forward, please. Thank you. To address some of the other questions that tend to come up regarding this sort of eating style, maybe you're keto, maybe you try to restrict carbs in other ways. You can do this in a high carb day. You can do this in a low carb day. And these are just some breakups of how your plate might look depending on if you're going for a carb heavy option. I feel tired looking at this plate. I don't know about you guys, but maybe that's what you need to feel full. Give me a skip, please. Thank you. Before I go fully into the sugar question, I like to bring this up just because people are like, fruit, you can't eat fruit. Fruit has sugar in it. Fruit is terrible for you, right? I'll give it a resounding wrong. Fruit is not terrible for you, but if you are trying to limit your sugar intake, you can simply do that by just including more leafy greens or more vegetables and less fruit. So I want to talk a little bit about why 800 grams? Because there's a method to all the madness. I know it seems like a strange number, 800 grams of fruits and vegetables by weight. We got here because there is, and this goes back to, hey, can you jump back to my wellness continuum? Thank you. There is a number in a meta-analysis, which I will link out at the back end of this presentation, that looks at 95 health studies on longevity and all-cause mortality. So at 700 grams of fruits and vegetables, we'll just say produce to make it simple, intake daily, on this meta-analysis of these studies, they found that cancer risk went down substantially. If you push that a little further and dig a little bit deeper, 800 grams is the level, 800 grams by weight, is the level where all-cause mortality and heart disease went down substantially. So the reason that we're pushing this particular number intake-wise for fruits and vegetables is because it will get you closer to fitness, right? Having a fit, sound body that's able to carry out your functions on a daily basis. You can skip back ahead, thank you. Thank you. Again, I mentioned this a little bit before, but just to reiterate, fruit is really not the problem. Added sugars are the problem. And the reason for that is because we strip water out of food that, we strip water out of processed food, things that are packaged up, and we add a ton of sugar and a ton of fats to them to make them palatable, to make them taste good. Because once you take out all of the naturally occurring sugars and all of the nutrients and all of the water so that you can give something a really long shelf life, it starts to taste like cardboard. So the only way to kind of make people want to buy that is to go ahead and jam it packed full of whatever else you need in there, you know, tastes good, palatable things like fats and sugars. Please, thank you. So there's going to be a second component, and so you will also see lazy macros written on a couple of things. Lazy macros, I know Janae didn't like the term lazy, but I actually really love it. Is the 800 gram challenge with a protein component. And so we will naturally get into all of the specifics of those two components, but this is just kind of looking at what a meal setup might look like if you decide to move into the challenge portion. The reason for that is you can eat 800 grams of fruits and vegetables and your protein throughout the day, snacking. I am a snacker, I will admit it, I'm one of those people. I don't tend to sit down and eat full meals. However, you will feel satiated longer and you will have a greater sense of not needing to grab something if you sit and eat a balanced meal. And I can attest to this, when I sit and eat full meals, I don't snack nearly at all throughout the time frame between meal 1 to meal 2. However, if I have my small snacks, I definitely snack all day long, constantly picking. Not the worst thing to be picking on fruits and vegetables, but if you're looking to, you know, not need to constantly grab something, having a balanced plate of food is really the way to do it. Thank you. That's okay. You guys also got this in your email. It is attached to the back side of the paper that you all picked up that has your expanded rule definitions on it. So we're not going to go greatly in detail of this right now because I know it's about to come up in all of our questions as we go forward. But what we're going to propose is that we do the 800 gram challenge here as a gym, and we have invited the United Fitness Kickboxing Gym to join us. If you guys do decide that you would like to sign up for the challenge, we're going to go over some of the specifics of the rules. I know a lot of you guys have been waiting for this. Did I miss anybody on there? Okay. You can stay on the other one for a second. Oh, you're fine, thank you. So, no worries. With the challenge, what we're looking for is your 800 grams, we'll give you a protein goal, and then I'm going to ask you to add in even some more factors that will get you closer to, you don't have to change it, that wellness side, that fitness side of the continuum. Those things are going to be activity, which I know we're all doing, probably a good minimum portion of at least, since we're from a fitness community and that's why we're all here. I'm going to ask that you all can commit to completing at least 30 minutes of dedicated movement practice. So I'm not saying exercise because maybe you don't get your heart rate crazy high, but I just want you to move your bodies intentionally every day. That will give you a point. And it's listed kind of down here, but we'll go over the larger version. An activity point. And then the next one is recovery. Recovery is one of the most overlooked things in terms of overall health and wellness across the board. And what I mean by recovery in the simplest terms is sleep. I know a lot of people work crazy hours and you have jobs that don't allow you to get the greatest sleep. So what we want to do is try to maximize the time that we have. I have on here 7 because that is the recommended number. 7 hours spent in bed. Ideally, you would be getting consecutively 7 hours of sleep, but I know some of our minds don't let us fall asleep like that. So what we're looking for in terms of garnering a point is 7 hours spent in bed without your phone in your hand. So you put yourself to sleep, you create a sleep hygiene practice where once you get into bed, the phone's not in the bed with you. Most of you, even though it might be mind-numbing and crazy at first, will eventually start to find that you fall into sleep patterns sooner, but it does take some time to create a habit that your body will respond to. So the 7 hours spent in bed is going to be one of the point objectives. I know I'm going to get this question, so I'm just going to answer it up front. I have a lot of shift workers that always ask, do naps count? In the real world, in the grand scheme of things, they wouldn't count. Napping is not the greatest setup for sleep just because your body gets jolted in and out of the different sleep cycles. However, because we all live in current society and our bodies are adjusting to the world around us and we don't have perfect schedules, I will count your sleep time if it is naps. If you have to sleep or nap for 2 hours in a day, but you only slept for 5 hours the night before, you can count your 1 point for 7 hours of sleep. And then last but not least, because some of these may seem difficult, we have a diversity bonus. So what that means, and this is also on your little sheet, is that if you can diversify your 800 grams, because like I said, there are thousands of minerals, phytochemicals in plants that your body utilizes for different processes. If you can get 6 sources across your 800 grams or your 6 cups, 6 separate sources at least 25 grams or a quarter cup each, you get a bonus point. So maybe you didn't sleep well one of your nights, but you did great on your eating, you ate 6 sources, you can kind of win that point back. Next, please. Thank you. Because protein is one of the options, I just wanted to have a brief moment on protein sources. So it is noted in terms of your sheet that I gave you, ways to measure protein. For measuring protein, if you are not going to use a scale is obviously easiest. You get the exact weight of something. Always weigh it cooked for protein. If you're not going to get a scale and you don't want to utilize an actual measuring cup for protein, the size of your palm tends to be about 3 ounces. So a quick measuring guide I threw on there was fifth, 1 cup. Cupped hand tends to be about a half cup by volume. And then size of your overall palm is about 3 ounces. A way to use those measurements and get a quick thrown out number for your grams of protein is to utilize the app. What is it? Thank you. MyFitnessPal for the win. It is a free app. All you have to do is throw in the size or the technical weight, again, 3 ounces of whatever protein you ate. It'll tell you how many grams it is in terms of the macronutrient content. And that's what we're looking for in the protein. In terms of your sources, I have the image up here because not all protein is created equal. We are not going to demonize protein bars in any sense. If you need to hit a protein content for the day, you need to do it in a shake, you need to do it in a bar, that's fine. One of the great things about this challenge that I haven't said yet, and I feel like it's going to change everyone's tone, is nothing else is restricted on the 800 gram challenge. If you want to eat that scone in the morning, or you want to eat that ice cream at the end of the day, you can have it. You don't lose a point for eating the ice cream, for eating the scone, for eating your favorite treat that you don't want to give up. What we are seeking to do is if that scone or that ice cream or that chocolate is in competition with that last 100 grams of fruit or vegetables that you have to eat for the day, and you eat the chocolate and you're like, I just can't do it. I can't possibly eat that last 100 grams of fruit now because I'm already full. You lose your point for the day. It's a pass fail. It's 800 or it's nothing. So what we hope is that by taking in that quality food at the quantity necessary, you're going to push out the junk. Right? And that tends to be what happens across the board. This challenge has been run all over the nation. It does tend to be very successful. So it works. When you're filling yourself up with healthy foods, you crave less of the junk food, right? You have less space for the junk food. And overall, you start to notice that your palate for the junk food changes. One thing that I will say is you'll start to notice sugar, and the way that sugar tastes becomes a lot more noticeable to your tongue after you haven't had a lot of sugar for a while. We do get kind of desensitized to that. Switch, please. Thank you. That being said, just as a reminder, you can do this wrong. All right, so I know that we're not restricting. I don't want to restrict you from eating your treats that you like. However, when you're getting in your 800 grams, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna have a salad, it's a really great salad, I do ask that you still try to be mindful of things, just because it's gonna be better overall for your health. But something like, and I know we've probably all done this, those little cups of dressing, especially the creamier versions of the dressing, tend to be, I think, 2 to 3 ounce cups, and without any thought, goes right on the salad, shake it up. And the example we have here that I think is a ranch dressing or a Caesar, but it's 3 ounces and just under 400 calories in that quick 3 ounce little dump on that beautiful diverse salad that we've set up. So trying to go a little bit lighter would always be best and in your best interest. However, again, we're not restricting anything. If you decided to cover your salad in 400 calories worth of dressing, no one's going to tell you that you can't have your point for the day. Tracking. So if you guys do decide that you're going to come into the challenge with us, can you click on that link? Zoom people, did that show up for you? Thumbs up? No, they're stuck on that one.
I don't know what to do.
I'm gonna change the screen there. No worries. And we popped up in which window? Is it that one? This one. You're doing a great job with this very tiny. Okay, so you guys get to see our Zoom friends. So if you click on the link that I set up there, it's going to bring up this daily score tracker. Sorry for the wait. So you'll have your email, same thing that you put in. It looks a lot like the page that you registered from. And then you have the date. When you put in your date, it will always be the previous day. The reason for that is you can't count a sleep point until you've slept. So on the next day, you check the date for the day before, and then you have some simple yes, no's, 800 grams, protein, your 30 minutes of activity, sleep hours, and then your bonus point. This form will send your answers to a spreadsheet, and it will take your point totals and put that all together for you, so you don't have to actually keep track of it on your own. Unless you want to. I did send out, these are attached to the email, just some note sheets with the weekdays. These do start on Monday. I'll just make life easier, since all of our scoring will end on a Monday, so that you get your Monday to Sunday in. You guys are welcome to take these if you'd like to have little note sheets and you're somebody who likes to write on actual paper. everyone who registers for the challenge will get access to that link.
Barb's waving to
Everybody's waving. We'll just assume they're waving back. All right, and then you guys are gonna.
I'm like 14.
Close enough. Where does this go?
It was having trouble there. I wonder if it's possible to share you talking and that at the same time.
Don't think so, umbrella.
It's yours.
Thanks. It wouldn't be right if there weren't some technical difficulties. You guys on Zoom have the Kickstart challenge screen now? Thank you. All right, so the dates for the challenge, just to start wrapping up, is January 10th, that is tomorrow, through the 17th. We're going to call prep week. You do not have to be registered yet. For prep week, we have some goals. The goals are to start increasing your plant matter intake. The reason that we want you to do this on kind of a scale is that if you suddenly just start dumping 6 cups of vegetables into your diet, you're going to have some GI problems. I don't want anyone to go through that, so I would like you guys to take a scaled approach, maybe 2 cups on day 1, maybe try to shoot for 4, and then try to raise to 6 by the end of the week. Make sure that your stomach responds well to the choices that you're making. After that time, we'll go ahead and get your data collection. We do want to take some data points on you. We would like to get ideally a weight, just so you have it for your report. A photo setup of you, front and side view. If you do not want us to take these photos, you are very much welcome to take them yourselves. I will put some example photos out there so you can see the exact angles that we'd like to get. And a few measurements on your body in terms of waist, arms, just general setup, so that you have an idea from day 1 to the end of the 4 weeks, if anything has kind of changed with your body composition. We do run a very strict challenge later in the spring that really starts to address body composition. All right, if you'll notice on the principles page, no, it's way far back. You can leave it. On the principles page, again, quantity determines your weight, quality determines your body composition. So what you'll notice is as you start to eat more of the good food, you're going to be less puffy, you'll be less bloated. Some of those swollen days will kind of come down for you. When we get to the more strict variation of this challenge, sugar comes out of the diet, dairy comes out of the diet. Kelly Reed, I think, was here for the last strict challenge that we did. It is a very noticeable change. So if you feel good coming out of challenge A for the spring, or for the winter, and you want to move into the spring strict challenge to really dig in and get those body comp changes, you can feel free to shoot us a message and we would love to include you in that as well. After we finish up our first week of practice, our official scoring will start the following Monday. Everyone will have the link to the scoring tracker. If you do not like putting in numbers at the end of the day, if it's just not your thing, I will accept an email with a photo of your written out log. What I will not accept is a random number. If you just tell me, hey, I definitely got all the available points this week, I want to see that you took the time to at least write it down somewhere in your day. I knew I made myself a note to shamelessly plug our friend Tim. For week 1 and for further weeks, if you guys can see, we have a drink menu over here, and I'll link him out to you for Instagram. One of our members, Tim, runs a great company that does a lot with sea moss and vegetables and getting those into palatable smoothie drinks. So here's his shameless plug. His drinks, because they're not juice specific, they are the full vegetable and the full fruit, will count as one of your servings. If you are trying to get them in and get your system kind of acquainted for the first week, the caveat here is juices do not count on the challenge. So if you juice something, that doesn't count as part of your challenge weight. The reason for that is that when you just juice something, you're tending to get a lot of sugar from it, and you're stripping out the fiber content and a lot of the digestible products that your body needs to break down to make you feel full. So regular juices do not count. It tends to just be sugar. If you are emulsifying it and making a smoothie out of it with the whole fruit, counts. You can count it as long as you can weigh it. The caveat with that being they digest faster. If you break something down, it's already pre-broken, your body has to do less work, and therefore you're gonna feel full for a less duration of time. The only reason I promote Tim's smoothies beforehand is just because if you are not currently eating a high volume of vegetables, they might be a little bit easier on the stomach as you're trying to digest. Also, making smoothies out of your own fruits and vegetables might be a little bit easier on your stomach, just as you're getting started. When we get into challenge scoring, a total perfect challenge score would be a 168, and we will have some bonuses for that. You guys have this in your paperwork. Next one, please. For challenge accountability, everyone who registers will be put into a Facebook group. The reason for this is to commiserate. Number one, obviously, when you do a diet change, you want to talk to other people about it. Number two, just so that you can kind of share recipes, come up with things that work. If you know that you can fit a whole bunch of vegetables into one particular recipe and you're like, it's great, it gets half of my needs in for the day, you guys can all exchange that information there. Questions can go in there, and then you'll have obviously quick access to links. If you don't have Facebook, I know a lot of our members don't have Facebook. I will do my best to keep summarizing what's going on in the Facebook group if there's anything that anyone would benefit from knowing, and I'll get emails out to you guys at the end of the week with that information. And then obviously I mentioned you'll have your data collection, your photo diary. That is important stuff because you really can't see the changes in your body, especially in a month. You're not going to notice what's happening as well as a picture will tell you from day one to the last day. And we've all done that. None of us have felt changes, but it's really cool to see. So I highly recommend that even if you decide to run this on your own or kind of do it, just keeping along by yourself, take a picture for the hell of it, just so you have something to look at. Which one, please? And then I would like to leave you with this just as something to think about, because it crossed my mind a lot over, the new year, new you phrases that were coming up. Typically, if you're waiting for January to start, it's a red flag that you have unrealistic goals about your life in the next 3 weeks. So for January, I'll just sub in next month, next week, on Monday. So if any of you are thinking about making a change or doing anything to better your health, to push yourself towards that fitness end of the continuum, just do it now. Do it now and don't be perfect about it, and give yourself some room to make mistakes. It's okay. Something that you can do fairly well for a year is way better than something that you could do perfect for 3 days. All right, so give yourself some room, make small changes, and I will open it up to any specific questions that you may have written down along the way. Great question. So for qualified proteins, beans would count. I will also note that beans can count on your 800 grams. We don't restrict out beans or other legumes except for peanuts. Peanuts would be the only legume that don't count. So you could go either way. Could be your 800 grams, could be in addition to your protein. There is also a caveat. You'll see noted on most of this that it says 100 grams. If you weigh less than 115 pounds, that goes down to 90 grams. I know, yeah. So if anybody's like, hey, wait, just shoot me an email and I'll make a note on your file that you are a 90-gram participant. Yes, so that's awesome. If you are already used to counting macros, you have an advantage on protein counting. The requirement that we have on here, that 100 grams or 90 if you weigh less than 115 pounds, is a bare minimum. So you can feel free to exceed it. I hope that you do. Same with the 800 grams. The 800 gram number is a minimum. You have to hit at least 800 grams. If you're still hungry, have a salad. You can have more. Everyone's number is not going to be perfect, and depending on your activity level, you might need more or less food in terms of carbs, in terms of just some more filling vegetables. That is totally fine. These are baselines. This is your goal to hit as a minimum. All right, everybody's genetics, everybody's days, everybody's biology is a little bit different, so you could be slightly off from that number.
Do you want me to stop sharing the screen so they can see you?
Sure.
I don't know how to do it.
Click that red button. You guys are used to webinars, you know, it's just voice. Does anybody have any further questions? I'll open it up to Zoom as well. If you guys have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. Just a bunch of thumbs up. All right, well, I thank all of you for coming out. I will absolutely be available over the course of this next week. Does Greek yogurt count as a protein? If it does not have added sugar, it does. Will I provide sample meals? I would love to provide sample meals. We will also, over this practice week, I will do my best to post on social media. So if you don't follow us on Instagram or Facebook, make sure that you follow us or like us so that you can see our posts. All the things that I eat and what they weigh, so that you get an idea of seeing a quantity of food and about what its general weight is, because it'll help you kind of visualize what's going on in terms of how much you're putting in my body. I'd like to give a quick example there. If I'm eating a medium apple, you don't eat the core of the apple usually. Some of you don't eat the peel either. So when you're thinking about a cup, how much food, how much of an apple would be in a cup or your fist, you have to consider that you're going to have refuse. You're going to throw some of it away. So 2 medium apples would be that cup. It wouldn't be that 1 apple, even though it might be the size of your hand, just because you're not eating the entire thing. So we want to take that into account. Well, so with anything that has added sugar, so that's why the juices don't count, because you don't want to just strip foods down to their sugar intake. You don't want to have a protein shake that has a bunch of added sugar in it. So if it's a Greek yogurt, the protein content's going to be better in a plain Greek yogurt, and then you should add your sugar to it. If you can, add your own honey, add your fruit to it. That's a double win there for both things. But it's just as a suggestion. Again, if you eat a low fat Greek yogurt, they tend to, again, pull out some of those nutrients and then put way more sugar than is required for palatability because they've pulled out some of the fat. So I wouldn't count protein sources that are not actual protein sources. A plain Greek yogurt would count. A snack, a junk food snack wouldn't count. Protein powder would count, usually around 21 grams. I will, if you guys want, I have several of these lists already typed up. And I do believe the second page that went out in the email has a lot of the more nitty gritty rules in there too, which you are free to read over. And again, I'm available the whole week for questioning. Email is fine, text is fine, whatever works. We're going to finalize all of these discussion points, and the official scoring does not start until next Monday. How are we going on Zoom? Everybody good today? No new questions? All right, so I thank you all for joining me. Thank you on Zoom. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot them out to me for the next week.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you, Erin. Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you, everyone.